Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webcast today, National Parks by Rail with Amtrak. My name's Brian Murray, the Director of Travel at AAA, and I'm delighted you're spending some time with us. You know, this COVID-19 pandemic has hit the world so hard, and one of those areas is the travel industry. There have been many disappointed travelers whose spring and summer vacations have either been canceled or postponed. However, we're all resilient and we'll get through this pause. What we want to do today is share with you some great information about travel. And while we're not just ready to travel yet, we want to help you dream about your next vacation and inspire you to think about all the possibilities. I want to share with you that you're in listen only mode. However, if you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in the question box and we'll be happy to entertain them at the end of the program. If we don't get to your question, don't worry, we'll reach out and address your questions individually. So let's get going. I'd like to introduce Jim Marini, Vice President of Strategic Partnerships with Amtrak Vacations. Jim, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really delighted you're here.
Thank you so much, Brian. And first and foremost, a good afternoon, everybody. Thank you on behalf of Amtrak Vacations, as well as AAA Western Central New York. Thank you for being here. So without further ado, everybody, let's get started. And as Brian mentioned, really, being able to just inspire you, whether you're looking to travel as early as the late summer or fall of this year or anytime into 2021, I did want to start out by just sharing some updates with all of you. For those of you who may not have traveled with Amtrak Vacations as of yet through your local AAA office, did you know, any of you traveling with your children or grandchildren, if they're between the ages of 2 and 12, they can actually save up to 50% off on the rail portion of any package. Any folks that are 65 or older, you can qualify for up to 10% off on the rail portion of any Amtrak vacation package. And certainly last but not least, military, any active duty military, your spouses, and or your dependents can qualify for up to 10% off on the rail portion. Now, being members of AAA, Western Central New York comes with its benefits, and one of those is you get on any trip that you consider booking through your local AAA travel advisor, you'll get a $100 bounce back offer towards your next exciting Amtrak vacation. As long as it's 3 cities or more, and if it happens to be 5 nights or longer, you automatically will save $50 off the booking. Now, I do invite all of you to stay tuned until the end of today's presentation because, as Brian mentioned, we will be opening up to any live questions that you have, but also we have an exciting update to share with each and every one of you who are kind enough to take time to listen to us today. So where does Amtrak Vacations travel to? You know, I always love showing this map, and certainly for all the great members out through Central and Western New York, obviously you can start any trip right from your local Amtrak station. So one of the points I wanted to mention is if any of you out there listening to Brian and I, if you don't like to fly or you don't feel like driving, believe it or not, folks, there's over 500 Amtrak stations that you can start or end your rail vacation. All right. And with Amtrak Vacations with AAA, we do more than just rail. We do trains, we do hotels, 3, 4, 5 diamond hotels, sightseeing tours, meals, activities. And again, if you want to start right there locally in Central or Western New York, you are more than welcome to do that. Now, we appreciate all of you being here, and I wanted to also share with you some important information. As Brian mentioned, with COVID-19, obviously, the world is a little bit different, I think is the best way to say it, than what we've all been accustomed to over the years. So how is Amtrak maintaining a safe environment? Well, folks, if you look at the top, facial coverings are now required on all trains, train stations, and throughway buses. Again, we want to make sure it's as safe as possible for each and every one of you, your friends, your family, your loved ones. Also, there's an enhanced cleaning protocols. Equipment is cleaned and sanitized daily. I want to say every hour upon the hour, folks. They are sanitizing the insides of the trains, the handles, the doorknobs, the outside of the trains, the train stations. Amtrak is now going cashless. So one of the things you're going to hear me talk about today a few times is, with everything that's going on in the world currently, there is some silver lining moments. There are some good moments. And one of those is credit cards are now widely accepted in all the train stations, all the trains itself. Also, social distancing posters and floor stickers, giving you that kind of lucky 6 feet distance apart from each other. Now, one beautiful part, and you'll hear this in just a little bit about national parks, you definitely have plenty of distance apart from each other, which is certainly why the national parks is trending so well for us. There's a committed team of 18,000 employees working together to make sure that and your clients and AAA's clients get to the destination safely. And then the last point is onboard distance. You're going to hear about today more than ever, members are choosing train versus plane. You're going to hear about the opportunities to be in your own private sleepers, which nowadays has become so much more important to give you that safety, security, to have your own little private area on the train, okay? We're going to talk about the different types of categories available on board the train. Now, what makes Amtrak Vacations different? Folks, if you look all the way to the left-hand side, it is a bucket list experience. And for those of you joining us, maybe you originally had a trip planned somewhere exotic or international. Maybe some of you may have been on a cruise and maybe you want to stay local. I can't tell you how many folks and how many AAA members that we've been fortunate to host over the years where traveling by rail, especially to the national parks, was on their bucket list. And hopefully it is for many of you joining us here today. Freedom and flexibility. Did you know, again, not only do we have over 500 Amtrak stations throughout the United States, including Central and Western New York, but we have daily departures and in some cases, multiple departures daily throughout most of the trains in the US. Now, what has been affected right here, right now? Obviously, us similar to the airlines, as of right here, right now, currently, many of the trains are operating at a reduced schedule, okay, similar to the airlines. But one big point I will mention, which I do believe is a big highlight, and hopefully all of you will agree as well, is unlike the airlines, which is operating at a reduced schedule, and many of them are filling up some of the planes or having a lot of folks on the planes, Amtrak has taken the stance of everyone in coach and business class, they're operating at a 50 to 60% capacity. So not only as of right here, right now, are we operating at a reduced schedule, but also at a reduced capacity within the train, allowing more room between passengers. Now, there has been a handful of trains that have been temporarily suspended as we speak. Those are some of the shorter commuter routes. One in particular is actually the Acela, which obviously is a popular route. That one is looking to be reopened by the middle of June. So stay tuned for that. Also, hassle-free. Did you know you can arrive at any of the Amtrak stations, folks, as close into departure as only 45 minutes to an hour? Now, if you look towards the right-hand side, we are the official tour operator of Amtrak. So what does that mean? We are a preferred national supplier of AAA, which the word AAA just has such safety and recognition. So you're definitely in great hands. City-to-city service. I often get asked the question, well, where are your hotels located? Do you know our hotels are located in the heart of the city? And again, we have a range of 3, 4, up to 5 diamond hotels. Many times the hotels as well, folks, are literally within a short walking distance of the train station or a short cab ride. And the last part is there's something for everyone. And I love this picture, folks. Whether you're looking to visit family, whether you're looking to travel with your family, children, grandchildren, your grandparents, your loved ones, what a great way to do that on board rail. All right, and you have that opportunity. By the way, this picture brings back a lot of memories for me. I had the pleasure of traveling on the auto train. Some of you might be familiar with the auto train. Some of you may have experienced traveling on board the train. Certainly very popular in the eastern United States. For any of you that want to travel down to Florida, where you can bring your own car, your own automobile, your own truck, your own motorcycle. It departs right out of Lorton, Virginia, right outside of the Washington, D.C. area, and brings you right into Sanford, Florida, right outside of Orlando. Very, very popular. Again, I know today it's about the national parks by rail, but I did want to mention that exciting opportunity and option as well. Now, something exciting I did want to also mention to all of you, all rail vacations are customizable. All right. So if any of you want to travel, let's say one way on board the train, maybe visit family and friends along the way, maybe stay at your favorite 3 or 4 or 5 diamond hotel in some different cities along the way, and then fly home at the end. Again, booking through your local AAA travel advisor can help you with all your arrangements, even including flights. Now, what does customize mean? Let me give you an example, everyone. If you look all the way to the left-hand side, this is a great 5-day, 4-night rails to the Grand Canyon package that happens to be round trip from Los Angeles. But let's say you want to add an extra night inside the Grand Canyon. We can easily do that right through your local AAA advisor. And let's say you want to add an extra night in Los Angeles. you can easily do that. What does that equal? Your customized vacation. And by the way, the same applies if you want to take out days, if you need to make a trip a little bit shorter or a little less expensive. The goal with AAA and Amtrak Vacations is always to find the right trip at the right price at the right time for each and every one of you. By the way, speaking of the right trips, let me highlight the trips that are trending very well for us right now as we speak. For members like yourself, planning these trips as early as the late summer and fall of this year and into all of 2021. And we're going to start out with our Grand National Parks, which includes Yellowstone, Yosemite, and the Grand Canyon. Now, if you take a look at the map, everyone, on the right-hand side, all the red lines represent the train routes. The number one in a red triangle just lets you know that's an overnight on board the train. The number one or the number two in a round black circle, that just tells you how many nights you're overnighting in the great cities. Now, some of you might be wondering, okay, well, Jim, I'm located in Buffalo, I'm in Rochester, I'm towards the Albany area. How do I get to Chicago? Well, again, if you don't like to fly or you don't want to drive, or maybe you're concerned to fly, AAA can start you right from your local Amtrak station and bring you to and from Chicago, where then you take advantage of this fantastic national parks itinerary. Or if you don't mind flying, they can also book flights for you into O'Hare or Midway. But let me walk you through this exciting trip. Now, this package is special because it features the California Zephyr. This is one of the first trains that you get to experience from Chicago heading west. This was actually the first train I ever traveled on from Chicago west about 7 years ago when I first started on board here at the company. And I'll tell you, folks, when you talk about a train that literally slices in and outside of all these iconic, beautiful mountains, especially through the Rocky Mountains, this is the train, rated one of the top 3 most scenic routes with all of Amtrak. Now, the first city that you arrive in is Salt Lake City. And once you arrive there, we'll spend an evening. You have dinner included at the Roof Restaurant, an iconic restaurant right in Salt Lake City. And then you travel north up into Yellowstone National Park. Now, folks, if you hear a little bit of an accent from myself, I am actually from the great state, the smallest state in the United States, of the state of Rhode Island. And a little fun trivia for all of you. I always share this every time I do my presentations. If you take the states of Rhode Island and Delaware, literally the number 1 and number 2 smallest states in the US, and you combine them, it's still smaller than Yellowstone National Park. Now, little fun trivia, do you know Yellowstone is actually the world's first national park? 96% of Yellowstone National Park is located in the great state of Wyoming, 3% is located in Montana, and 1% in Idaho. Now, one thing to keep in mind with all of our exciting rail vacations, everyone, in particular to the national parks, our trips are what we refer to as independent style travel, flexible independent style travel. What does that mean? Unlike a traditional guided bus tour where 7 or 8 in the morning you're departing, from 8 to 12 it's sightseeing, from 12 to 2 it would be lunch, from 2 to 5 some more sightseeing, then from dinner from 5 to 7, and then maybe an activity at night. What we do is on certain days you may have a half a day or a full day guided tour, and that tour is with a local tour guide or a local park ranger. Yellowstone is no different. We include a sightseeing tour right of Yellowstone's lower loop, but then you may have a day at leisure on your own. Once you spend time, of course, in Yellowstone, it's back on the California Zephyr before heading out to San Francisco, which is your home of where you board this iconic train. This is the Coast Starlight, folks. This is the train that goes up and down the west coast of the United States. And this is the train that will head south. But before you head south, you actually are treated to Yosemite National Park. Now, something to keep in mind, whether it's Yellowstone, whether it's Yosemite National Park, some of the national parks are actually not accessible by the train. So in some cases, we still include a motor coach sightseeing tour, which we do on all our tours to the park. So this is a real treat. You'll actually have a full day guided tour on one of the days you're in the San Francisco area out to Yosemite National Park. And for that whole day, you will have a local tour guide. In fact, your bus driver, he or she is typically your tour guide. Typically early morning departure, late arrival back in the evening, because we're going to give you that full day at Yosemite National Park. Once you leave the San Francisco area, again, we travel south into my old stopping grounds. Even though I'm from Rhode Island, I used to live in Southern California for about 8 years. Folks, if you haven't been out to Hollywood, home of Beverly Hills, Los Angeles. We include a sightseeing tour. I always say weather is pretty much in the 60s and 70s every day with very little to no humidity. And what's the train you get a chance to experience? Traveling out to the beautiful Grand Canyon. This is called the Southwest Chief, folks. All right. By the way, all the trains, little fun trivia for all of you, all the trains that go from Chicago out west into the western United States, out to the beautiful national parks, they are known as superliner trains. They are known as double decker trains, very large, iconic trains. And by the way, I have some of my own personal pictures that I purposely added into today's presentation to share with all of you. Obviously, one of the best highlights of this trip, not only Yellowstone, not only Yosemite, but right here, folks, at the Grand Canyon National Park. Now, the Grand Canyon National Park typically is open all year long. Do you know over 7 million people visited the Grand Canyon last year? And by the way, speaking of the Grand Canyon, considered to be one of the 7 wonders of the world. Now, we have a real nice treat for you. Not only on this trip, but do you know every trip or any trip you're interested in that goes to the Grand Canyon, you get a chance to board the Grand Canyon Railway. Folks, that is the picture that you are looking at right here. One of the iconic, kind of that Wild West style trains. This is what takes all of the AAA members through into the Grand Canyon, right from Williams, Arizona, into the south rim of the Grand Canyon. Now, it's only about a 2-hour train ride, and I'm going to give you a suggestion right here, right now, folks. When you call your local AAA travel advisor that you work with, or certainly when you reach out to your local AAA office, definitely ask about upgrading to either the dome or the parlor car. Our pricing is always based in coach seatings, just like it is on board Amtrak, with the option to upgrade. So whether it's on board the Amtrak train to upgrade to a sleeper, which I'm going to get to in a little bit, or right here on the Grand Canyon Railway, for a little bit more, folks, you'll have that much more of an experience. It's the home of the nice big glass dome windows to give you that full view, all right, as you're traveling from Williams up to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. Plus, the seats are much larger. There's snacks and refreshments on board, so definitely make sure to find out more about that. But folks, here's a great package. And again, by the way, all the national parks trips that I'm highlighting here today, these are packages we're getting new bookings on every day, even since the world has changed. And again, when are folks like yourselves traveling? At the earliest, many of the new bookings we're getting are for folks traveling as early as the late summer and fall of this year into all of 2021. By the way, pricing that you see here on the left-hand side, that's based on double occupancy per person, okay, 2 to a room, and based in coach seating with the option to upgrade to a sleeper, which again, I'm sure Brian would certainly agree with me on, as many of you, if you've traveled on board Amtrak before, anytime you're overnighting on board the train, folks, as long as it's within your budget, always consider to upgrade to a sleeper. And certainly now more than ever, to give you that your own privacy, that peace of mind, that comfort, having your own room on board the train. Now, we have many different packages that are trending very well for us. Here's another one, Grand National Parks on the California Zephyr. Now, this one, folks, unlike the previous package, which happened to be round trip from Chicago, this one happens to start in the great city of Denver and end in end in San Francisco, rather, right? So it goes one way. So again, if you're coming from Central or Western New York and you're wondering, how do I get to Denver or back home from San Francisco? Again, if you do not like to fly or you're concerned to fly or drive, your local AAA travel advisor can start you right from your local Amtrak station, bring you out to this great area, and then bring you back home. Or they can certainly book flights for you either into Denver and or out of San Francisco. Now, this package, just like the previous package, also features the California Zephyr. Again, folks, this is the train that will take you right through Denver, into Salt Lake City, out to northern Nevada, over into Northern California, into actually Emeryville, which is located right outside of San Francisco. Now, in this package, we also include a sightseeing tour of Rocky Mountain National Park. And as I mentioned, anytime you see any of the national parks, either for a full day or a half a day, you'll have tours included with a local tour guide or a local park ranger. Now, it's not only Rocky Mountain National Park, it's also Yellowstone National Park. And by the way, how do you get to Yellowstone? We have a sightseeing tour from Salt Lake City that brings you north up into Yellowstone, where then you could spend some time having a sightseeing tour included, having a day at leisure, And then this is special because it includes arches and canyonlands. Now, this to me is special. We came out with this package, and package is similar, about 3 years ago. Folks, how do you get to Arches and Canyonlands National Park? You actually travel to these national parks in a private sedan service. And by the way, the private sedan service only fits about 4, 6, up to 8 passengers. And where does it go? It not only goes to Arches National Parks, folks, it also brings you to Zion National Park, okay? And by the way, your driver, he or she, is also your tour guide for the days that you visit these parks. So really, this particular package, I always say, is the best of both, because not only do you have the rail included on the California Zephyr, not only do you get a chance to stay at some of these iconic lodges in and around the national parks, but you also in some cases have your own private sedan service into some of the national parks, or on a locally guided tour, all right, with a local tour guide. So definitely keep this package in mind. Certainly if Arches and Bryce or Zion are on your wish list, all right, so keep that in mind. Now, for any of you that may want to just visit one national park, maybe you just want to focus on one particular national park, or maybe you can only travel or only want to travel for a certain amount of days, or you want to stay within a certain price range, folks, we have packages to each individual major iconic national park, whether it's the Grand Canyon, as you can see here, which happens to be round trip from Chicago, whether it's to Yellowstone, whether it's to Yosemite. Again, Grand Canyon, you can't go wrong. By the way, they estimate some of the rocks at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, folks, are estimated to be up to 2 billion years old. So there's so much to see and do here. And I can't tell you how many AAA members who may have originally been planning to travel outside the country are deciding to just stay local. There is something to be said, and there's no doubt we're seeing it every day. Here's what's happening, folks, with so many AAA members. So many are traveling domestically initially, again, as early as the late summer, fall of this year into next year, before they start to venture internationally. Now, I did promise everyone I did want to share some of my own personal pictures. So before we get to the seating and sleeping accommodations on board the train, I did want to mention this is a trip that I had the pleasure of traveling on about 2 years ago. And similar to some of our other packages, as you can see, it starts in one great city and ends in another. And again, your local AAA advisor can help you to get to Chicago and back home from Seattle, whether it's completely by rail, if you're concerned to fly or don't want to drive or fly, or they can book flights for you as well as the entire package. By the way, this train is on one of my favorite trains in all the Western United States, folks. It is on the Empire Builder. I feel like I need a little drum roll. One of my favorite, and again, another Superliner double-decker iconic trains. This is the train that's going to take you from Chicago out up into the northern portion of the country, into the great state of Montana. However, before you depart, folks, if you haven't been to Chicago, this trip does include a couple nights in Chicago. And again, just a reminder, any trip can be customized. So if you want to add extra days or take out days, maybe you've been to certain cities, you don't want to spend 2 nights, maybe just one night, or there's only 2 nights and you want 3 nights. Any trip can be customized, okay? But for those of you that are interested in Chicago, this is one of my favorite cities, home of the deep dish pizza, right? The Chicago hot dog. Folks, even if you're not a sports fan, or you may not be a particular fan of their sports, how about even visiting at leisure on your own time, Wrigley Field, home of the Chicago Cubs. By the way, in Chicago, they also have Chicago's Second City Comedy Club. Some of the famous actors and actresses and comedians of today had their start in the great city of Chicago. See, if you're like me, folks, I love experiencing some of the local, not only sites, but also local cuisine. And certainly Chicago will not disappoint, that's for sure. Just like if I was to say, if I'm traveling to Buffalo, right, you got to have the Buffalo wings, right? There's certain types of cuisine that's known in certain areas of the US, and Chicago's no different. Now, folks, this is where it gets to some of my own personal pictures. I wanted to share with all of you. Folks, that's a close-up view of the Empire Builder train. Look at that. Huge train, double decker. You have the attendant on the left-hand side, and yes, you can order off the menu. But a real highlight, folks, when you arrive at the Amtrak station at Glacier National Park, folks, this is what you are looking at right in the distance. That is Glacier Park Lodge. And by the way, I took that picture right from the Amtrak station when I got off the train. You ever heard of the old saying, location, location, location? It doesn't get to be a better location. And by the way, don't ask me how I know this, but I do know how because I counted it. 209 steps away from Glacier Park Lodge is the actual train station. Once you arrive at Glacier Park Lodge, if you look at this little collage, folks, the picture in the middle, that's inside of the lobby of Glacier Park Lodge. The large logs holding up the high ceilings. Top right-hand corner, that was a picture I took standing at the front door, the doorsteps of Glacier Park Lodge. And behind the flagpole, that's a picture of the Amtrak station. And a closer view of it is down below on the right-hand side, which is fantastic. Just a small little iconic train station. Bottom left-hand corner, again, if you're like me and you like to experience the local cuisine, on the menu, folks, they had choices such as elk, they had bison bolognese. How unique is that, right? My feeling is, hey, when in the area, why not experience that? And by the way, the top left-hand corner, I know it's not the most glamorous picture, but folks, it took me all the power I had not to eat that delicious pie before taking a picture. That is known as huckleberry pie, which is iconic in the states of Montana and Idaho. And I know we talked earlier about our trips, all our trips being independent style travel. Again, enough structure included, but also enough flexibility. Well, speaking of structure, once we arrived the first evening, just like any of you would, interested in Glacier, that first evening, you have dinner at leisure on your own. They got a great restaurant inside of Glacier Park Lodge. But the next day was followed by this red jitney bus tour on the left-hand side, folks. This only fits about 12 to 16 passengers. Your driver, just like it was for me, is your tour guide for the full day. This is a full day guided tour. It's a lot of fun. By the way, the roof opens up, allowing for fresh air to come in as they make stops all along the way to take pictures, videos. You can meet some of the local park rangers as I did on the right hand side. All right, just an iconic trip. And before you know it, again, you are just in the heart of Glacier National Park. Now, little something to share with all of you. Do you know Glacier National Park is our #1 most popular national park in all of the United States, folks? This is one park that always sells out for us. And the reason why is it is only available in the months of June, July, August, and September. It is only open 4 months a year, okay? Majority of the park being in the great state of Montana. By the way, over 1 million acres. Now, after you spend time in Glacier, you have the choice if you want to go back to Chicago, back over into New York, or you can continue your journey on, like I did, out to Seattle, home of course, the first Starbucks that ever opened up back in 1971. Just an iconic area. We do include admission to the Space Needle, as well as the Chihuly Garden and Glass Museum, as well as a sightseeing tour. And I did want to mention too, in all the cities that you travel to on any of our tours, whether it's some of the major cities such as Seattle or Los Angeles, or even some of the mid to small size cities, we typically try to include what we call either a hop on, hop off tour or a sightseeing tour. And this just gives you a chance to travel and spend time at those different iconic sites within the city. The beauty is you could stay as long or as short as you would like at each of the different stops, which is great. And in some cases, you're either traveling by trolley, which is a lot of fun, or maybe a double-decker bus. But definitely keep this package in mind. And as I mentioned earlier, even for any of you who want to focus on one or two particular national parks, or maybe you're just looking for a short little getaway, folks, we have national parks packages that range literally, as you can see, from 3, 4, 5 days up to 1 and 2 weeks long. So depending on which national park you're interested, depending on your price point, your budget, we, along with your local AAA advisor, will help all of you find that right trip at the right price. So let me show you a short little video, and then we're going to talk about the seating and sleeping accommodations before I have an exciting announcement and we open it up to questions. So hope you enjoy this short little video with each and every one of you. And again, National Parks by Rail. As I mentioned, again, all those trains heading out west from Chicago, the double-decker Superliner trains, the Grand Canyon, absolutely iconic, operates pretty much around the year. Now, let's not forget about Yellowstone. I know I mentioned some fun trivia for all of you on the size of Yellowstone, but as I mentioned, Bryce Canyon, Arches Canyon, okay? Some of these national parks are not accessible by train, but to be able to travel either right up to the parks, whether it's Glacier National Park, whether it's the Grand Canyon where we connect with the Grand Canyon Railway, or in some cases, you're traveling by a sightseeing motor coach tour or in your own private shuttle, only fitting 4, 6 to 8 people. It's such a great way to experience it. And by the way, we not only do the beautiful national parks, we visit all the small, mid to large cities in the US. And on any trip, as I always like mentioning, you have the choice, folks, to choose between 3, 4, and 5 diamond hotels. Now, I will say a big highlight, folks, a big highlight when you travel to some of these iconic national parks. For any of you that are interested in the Grand Canyon, Glacier National Park, Yellowstone, Yosemite, you want to be in those iconic lodges. And by the way, that's one of many advantages when you book through your local AAA office. They can get space in these hard to get space lodges. All right, which again, if you're going to be in any of those particular 4 national parks, that's where you want to be, is in those iconic lodges. All right, let's take a look at the seating and sleeping accommodation on board the train. But before I do, a big highlight, did you know you're allowed 2 free carry-on bags and 2 pieces of checked luggage, folks, per person? Here's the best part. Here's my drum roll. For free. All right, for free. Last time I checked, unless you're part of a certain elite status with an airline, there typically is a charge for luggage, not on board the train. 2 pieces of luggage, 2 carry-on bags per person for free. Now, I want you to take a look at this picture just for a minute, everyone, okay? So whether you're traveling locally from New York, either heading down south to Florida, heading out west to Chicago, even when you're traveling in coach seating, folks, remember what I mentioned earlier. Amtrak right here, right now is currently operating at a 50 to 60% capacity rate in coach and business class, all right? Less people on board, more room in between one another. Also, speaking of more room, here's a big highlight, everyone. There are no middle seats on board the train, okay? I don't know if any of you, like myself, have ever been stuck in a middle seat on an airplane. There are no middle seats. There's 2 extra large seats on one side, 2 extra large seats on the other. By the way, if you have family, friends that happen to be taller in height, they love the train. Why? Lots of leg room. Now, let me tell you another silver lining moment. I talked earlier how now the trains and the train stations have gone cashless. Let me give you another silver lining moment. Do you know when you upgrade to a sleeper, you have the ability to board the train separately, to board the train individually. So if you don't want to be around a large crowd and you want to be able to get on the board, get settled into your own room, you have the ability to do that now. Now, what you're looking at here, folks, this is the most popular and the most affordable sleeping category of any sleepers on board the train. This is a roomette, all right? If you look on the left-hand side, everyone, as you can see, bunk bed style, you might be wondering, well, where's the toilet or shower? Folks, when you are in a roomette, the toilets and showers are right down the hall. They are called private yet shared toilets and showers. So the only people that have access to the toilets and showers are only people that are in sleepers, whether it's roomettes, bedrooms, family bedrooms, or handicap accessible rooms. But remember what I mentioned, roomettes are our most popular and our most affordable of any sleeping category. Now, regardless what category you book into, everyone has his or her own private accommodations with the privacy door. So folks, if you want to close that door, it can lock from the inside. You could take off your mask, relax, and inside the comfort of your own room, you have the ability to do that. Now, you know yourselves the best. If you want your own private toilet and shower inside your room, well, then you want to ask your local AAA travel advisor about a bedroom. Bedroom, as you can see on the left-hand side, is also bunk bed style, but it does have its own private toilet, shower, and vanity. And I'll tell you one other important update. The lower bunk bed, everyone, is 1.5 times as wide as the top bunk bed, which actually allows room for a small child. So I mentioned earlier how my family and I, we went on the auto train, which is so extremely popular for us, okay? From Lorton, Virginia, right outside of DC, down into Sanford, Florida, outside of Orlando. Again, the only one and only train you could bring a car, a truck, a motorcycle. You know what my family and I did? Because we're a family of 5, we got adjoining bedrooms. We actually got 2 bedrooms and we opened up the door in the middle. on some of the trains in the United States, whether it's on the Eastern United States as well as Western United States, some of the trains allow for adjoining bedrooms. So if you're looking to travel with your family or your friends and you want to be next to each other and open up the door in the middle, you have the ability to do that on select train routes. So just ask your local AAA advisor to tell you more. Now, by the way, folks, if my wife was here joining me in today's presentation, she would definitely also mention to all of you, you can bring your own alcoholic beverages on board the train. All right. But you do need to be booked in a sleeper. All right. So if you're in coach, any alcoholic beverages are not allowed if you're in coach. But if you are booked and you've upgraded into a sleeper, you can bring your own bottle of wine as an example. Now, you cannot bring it out in the open public, out to the dining car with other passengers, but whatever you may consume, it just needs to be consumed from the privacy of your own room. So that's what we do. We had a nice bottle of wine and we enjoyed it right from the comfort of our own room, and you can do the same. Speaking of the comfort of your own room, this is one of my last, what I call silver lining moments. Again, we talked about all the trains and train stations now going cashless. Credit cards are accepted throughout all the train stations. We've talked about you have the ability now to board the train separately or individually. Now you also have the ability to have meals delivered right to your own private sleeper. Folks, this only was offered in the past to any members or any travelers that were in a handicap accessible room, which it still is, of course, offered. But now, regardless if it's handicap accessible, a roomette, a bedroom, a family bedroom, you can order off the menu. It is known as flexible dining. So now all trains in the US have gone to what they call flexible dining, which allows you to order hot off the menu items for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, have the ability to either have them delivered to your room, or if you'd like to go sit at any available dining seat or in the lounge car, you have that option as well. By the way, I will mention if any folks have any special dietary requests, you just let your local AAA travel advisor know, and they will make those arrangements with us. So, folks, before I turn it back over to Brian in just a few moments to open it up to any questions that you may have, for any of you that may have joined us a little bit late, again, any of you looking to travel with your children, your grandchildren, if they are between the ages of 2 and 12, they can get up to 50% off on the cost of a rail portion within the package. So whatever the cost of the ticket is within a package, they can qualify for up to 50% off. Any folks 65 or older or any active duty military, you can also qualify for up to 10% off on the rail portion of a package. And again, being a AAA member of Western and Central New York comes with so many great benefits. This is one of them. You'll automatically earn $100 per booking bounce back offer to use towards your next rail vacation when you book any package. And when you book any package, if it's 5 nights or longer, we automatically will take $50 off the booking. Now, folks, I can't end today's exciting presentation without an exclusive offer, all right? We appreciate all of you. We appreciate your time. So if you have a pen and paper, if you have an iPhone, a mobile device, all right, feel free to take a picture or jot this down. From today until the end of next week, until Friday, May 29th, all right, any of you that book with the small deposit, and by the way, deposits are typically only about $250, okay? Any of you that book with the small deposit will automatically save $100 per booking offer as long as you upgrade to a sleeper. As long as you upgrade to a sleeper. So whether it's a roomette, a bedroom, a handicap accessible room, and all you need to do is just refer to that promotion code WCNY, so Western Central New York, upgrade 100. All right. As long as you book before the end of next week, that's good to travel anytime this year, again, as early as the late summer and fall of this year into all of 2021. All right. And I'm going to give you one other exciting update. We also have what we call our maximum flexibility offer going on right now until the end of this month. And folks, what does that mean? If you book through your local AAA travel advisor with a small deposit, all right, you have the ability, if needed, to postpone your trip, to change your trip, and we are waiving all change and cancellation fees as long as you book with the small deposit through your local AAA office before the end of this month. We will make a note in the record, both on behalf of AAA and Amtrak Vacations, to give you that peace of mind if you did need to postpone your trip whenever that trip was planned. We will waive any change or cancellation fees. Normally, they do apply if you're changing your dates, if you're postponing your trip, we will waive all of that. Also, if any of you have any special gift certificate from Amtrak, maybe you were planning to travel earlier this year and you have that gift certificate or future travel credit to use towards a future trip, that absolutely can be used through your local AAA office as well and your local AAA travel advisor. So this is just a little something on behalf of Amtrak Vacations and AAA West and Central New York to say thank you so much today for joining us. So folks, with that in mind, I promised Brian, and Brian, I think we did very well. I said right at the beginning, I said, we're going to be about 45 minutes with time at the end for questions. So folks, I'd say we're right on time. So if you have any questions, folks, I want you to feel free to type those away. I'm guessing some of you may have typed some already. So with that in mind, I will turn it back over to Brian to open it up to any questions you may have. Thank you so much,
Well,
everyone.
great, Jim. Thank you so much. It was a great presentation and so much to learn and so much to see in our beautiful country. We do have some questions. You did answer the first one. It was about the voucher from the coronavirus that it was a canceled trip. They absolutely can be used towards a future booking.
Yep.
I have a question here from Noreen, Jim, and she's asking, can you combine the senior and military discounts?
Great question, Noreen. Yes, and I did want to mention that. Yes, so it's only one discount per person, so you cannot combine. However, whatever the larger discount is, you will have access to that. So obviously, in that case, if it's senior as well as the any of the senior or military, it's the same discount, 10%. But as an example, if it's any child or grandchild being 50% off, as well as maybe a military, then obviously the child rate would apply as long as they're between the ages of 2 and 12.
Great, thank you, Jim. Another question, is there a place outside of the car to go and take pictures when
Oh,
you're on the train?
yeah, oh, absolutely. So, yeah, when you are outside, I mean, pretty much the observation car, okay, which obviously that's the main area. Just so everyone knows too, when you are in a sleeper, and actually I'm glad this question got asked, when you are upgraded to a sleeper, folks, you also have access to any available coach seat that you would like to sit at during the day. So you can actually move around the cabin too, certainly if you want to go for a nice walk, stretch your legs. I find myself, I know whenever I travel overnight, in particular out to the national parks, and I've been fortunate to travel to a lot of the parks, I'm typically either in the observation car or the lounge car. Typically, those are the areas I'm in. But again, you also have the comfort of being right in your room if you feel more comfortable to have your own private accommodations, which does have its own large picture window as well.
Great, thank you. Another question is, how much is a sleeper, small and large? And I think that probably varies on the route. Would that be correct, Jim?
Exactly. Yeah. What I would say, folks, if you're curious on the specifics of the size, so to speak, of the different sleepers, any of your AAA travel advisors, they could just pull that up depending on what the route is or the particular itinerary that you're looking at. Rule of thumb is, if I could give everyone an idea, roomettes, as I mentioned, they're our most popular and our most affordable. But again, roomettes, we have what we call a private yet shared toilet and shower, which is right down the hall. Bedrooms, of course, has its own private toilet, shower, and vanity. Bedrooms are definitely a little larger in size versus a roomette, and it does allow room for a small child because the lower bunk bed is about 1.5 times as wide.
And the cost of those, the upgraded cost varies per route as well.
It does. It does. Yep. So, that one thing I would encourage all of you, and I'm sure Brian, I would imagine you'd agree as well. Wherever you might be thinking of folks, even if you don't know exactly as to where or when, but you have an idea, I'd encourage you just, if anything, reach out to your local AAA travel advisor. If nothing else at all, just to give you an idea on what the cost difference would be between a roomette and a bedroom, because certainly if it fits within your price range and what you're looking at, again, as long as you let your local AAA travel advisor know, you'll be able to take advantage of this additional savings. And that's regardless if it's a roomette, a bedroom, a family bedroom, or a handicap accessible room.
Terrific, and a lot of good questions. Another question still regarding the sleepers
Yep.
in the roomettes. Um, who sets up the bedding when it's time to turn down?
Yep, that's a great question. Whoever asked that, great question. That is one of many benefits of being in a sleeper is you also have your own Amtrak attendant, folks. So yeah, to answer your question, it's your Amtrak attendant. So he or she always has turn down service. They're also available all the time throughout your journey as well. Typically, rule of thumb is there's one attendant, one Amtrak attendant for every one sleeping car, and every one sleeping car consists of multiple roomettes and multiple bedrooms, as well as some handicap accessible rooms. So they're always there to just help with turn down service, help answer any questions. They're also there to take to see what time, or it's better yet, to take your order as to what you'd like to eat for meals, and whether or not you'd like to go down to eat either in any available seat in the dining car or lounge car. Again, it's now flexible dining, or to have that ability to now have it delivered right to the privacy of your own room.
Terrific. And are gratuities included in the price, Jim?
Yep, great question. So gratuities are optional, so they're not included in the price. And I always say, you have more than the ability to tip whatever you prefer. Rule of thumb is usually it's $1 to $2 per person per day, just to kind of give you an idea. I personally have gone over that myself, just for me personally, pretty much on almost all the trips I've been on. But that's usually just an average, and it is optional.
Great. And then with the hotel stays, transfers, are they included to and from the hotels between the train station and the hotels?
Yep, great question. So in some of the major cities, transfers are available at an additional charge. But what I will share with everyone, the great news, because all of our trips are independent, flexible style vacations. So again, on certain days we have tours included, either for a full day or a half a day, and other days we might have days at leisure. All the hotels, folks, that we partner with, that again range from 3, 4, up to 5 diamond hotels, we specifically always partner with hotels that are either a short walking distance or a short cab ride. In fact, almost all the train stations throughout the US, when you arrive at the train stations, there's typically taxis and cabs waiting right out in front of the train station. As an example, though, as I mentioned, some are right within walking distance. So, Penn Station in New York City, many of the hotels are literally right 1 or 2 blocks away from the station itself. Same thing with Washington, D.C. as an example. Glacier National Park, as I mentioned, 209 steps away. Now, I will say at Glacier National Park, everyone, the train station, I walked from the train station to the lodge just because it was literally that close. But they do have a shuttle van that brings any folks like yourself and any of our travelers from the train station to the lodge. So again, whether it's a taxi or a shuttle, there is always transportation available for all of you.
Terrific. Another question. I have COPD. I need AC or DC power every few hours to recharge my oxygen machine. Is that available?
Yes, it is. Yep. So, and what I always mention for any folks that need that, just make sure, of course, which I'm sure many of you will, you just let your local AAA travel advisor know, just so they can put it in the record, and then the attendant on board is also aware to help if needed.
Perfect. And then another question. Is it common to spend several, perhaps 5 days in one park, such as Yellowstone? Do you stay at the lodge the full stay?
Yep, great question. So any of the national park lodges, rule of thumb is what's common for so many of our travelers will be anywhere from, I would say, 2 to 3 nights up to 5 nights is on an average. And again, folks, if you're interested in one national park versus multiple national parks, we have packages just to the Grand Canyon, just to Glacier, just to Yellowstone, just to Yosemite. And again, any trip can be customized, as well as having packages that feature multiple national parks and multiple trains. The lodging, as an example, in the Grand Canyon, folks, we use lodging such as El Tavar, Yavapai, Maswick Lodge. These are located literally right in the Grand Canyon. Glacier Park Lodge is literally, it's right there from the train station, right at the base of Glacier National Park. And it applies also for Yellowstone and Yosemite. Many of the lodges are either located in the park or right outside of the park, allowing for easy access to and from.
Terrific. And then looks like one last question here, Jim. Is Wi-Fi available in the train cars?
Yes, great question. So Wi-Fi is available and it is free of charge, but here's what I always say, and I'm sure many of you, and maybe even yourself, Brian, any of you that travel out in the national parks area, or certainly throughout more of the rural areas of the country, wireless is not available. So sometimes it gets very spotty, but here's what I say, especially in the national parks, folks, when it's not available, I always say, isn't that part of the reason of traveling to the
Yeah.
national parks, right? Am I right to enjoy the scenery,
Yes.
the sights, the sounds along the journey? So, I remember the first time I went years ago, folks, and I had wireless when I was in Chicago. It worked. Again, when you're traveling through the major cities as well as the small to mid-sized cities, you'll have wireless available and it's free of charge. But then once you get out more into the wide open ranges and the national parks and the countryside, you lose wireless. It's not available. But it almost just reminds all of us, well, wait a minute, what was the main point in traveling out to the parks? It was to actually spend time and really enjoy the sights and sights and scenes and scenery along the way.
Absolutely. It's always good to be connected, but sometimes it's good to be a little disconnected as well.
That's right.
So
That's right. Yep. So
and
true.
and then another one
Yeah.
came in as well. Are meals included in the price? And I believe they are with the sleeping accommodations, but maybe otherwise not. I'll let you elaborate on that.
That's right. And great question, whoever asked that. And by the way, folks, fantastic questions. Thank you from all of you, sincerely. So yes, when you do upgrade to a sleeper, obviously, again, um, if you're concerned to fly or you want your own private accommodations, anytime you're overnighting, I would always encourage my own family or friends to consider to be in a sleeper, just because again, not only do you have your own private accommodations, but like Brian said, you get all your meals included from the city you depart from until the city you arrive on. That's on board the train. Now, on the land portion, when you're traveling to some of the different national parks or visiting some of the sites and cities along the way, we do typically include a few meals on our packages, but also allowing that flexibility for some of you to have meals on your own at leisure. Because as I'm sure Brian would agree, so many of us, even all of us on today's call today, many of you may want a full buffet style breakfast in the morning or a full sit down meal, and some of you may just want a coffee or a bagel, right, or a muffin. So we do allow, and we always like having that kind of flexibility as well as some structure where we do include some meals, but also allowing others at leisure on your own.
Terrific. Well, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go aboard Amtrak and see our beautiful country. Jim, thank you. Great program. I'd like to let everybody know our travel consultants are available. They are working. We're not back in our offices yet, but we're available for you. And we can certainly arrange a terrific vacation in the U.S. With Amtrak. So many places to see, all four corners and in between. So with that, thank you, Jim. Great to have you here, and we wish everybody a great afternoon.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Brian.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.